The South African nation of Zimbabwe is set to abolish the death penalty, a punishment that the country has not executed in nearly 2 decades. The Zimbabwean Senate has approved the legislation to abolish capital punishment. The bill against the British colonial-era rule was introduced in the National Assembly last year. After months of debate, it has finally received a nod from Parliament. The bill will now be presented to the country's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. His signature will turn the bill into law and make the country free of capital punishment. President Mnangagwa has been a vocal critic of capital punishment. He has voiced his opposition to the brutal sentencing. Mnangagwa, who has been leading Zimbabwe since 2017, used his own experience to voice concerns over death penalties. He was sentenced to death during the independence war in the 1960s. His sentence was later commuted to 10 years in prison. Mnangagwa has used his power to grant amnesties to those facing capital punishments, converting them into life sentences. Zimbabwe last used hanging as an execution method in the year 2005. This is also due to a shortage of people willing to take up the executioner's role. Human rights groups have urged Mnangagwa to sign the legislation into law without delay. They also seek the commutation of sentences for those facing the death penalty in Zimbabwe. The country has more than 60 inmates awaiting execution. Zimbabwe is among over a dozen African nations that still have a legal framework to give death penalties. It is one of the 4 African nations, including Kenya, Liberia, and Ghana, that have taken positive steps towards abolishment of the death penalty. Meanwhile, over 50 countries worldwide continue to have death penalties. Even amid growing concerns over capital punishment, the data released by the human rights group shows a rise in executions. In 2023, 1,153 known executions were documented worldwide, while in 2022, 883 executions were documented. The rise in number comes despite the country's executing individuals went down to 16 from 20. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, and the US were the highest contributors to the executions data.